bleak. I mean, it looked really bleak. And then in the last 15 minutes of the first half, Sporting did pick up their pace as far as their offense was concerned, but they didn't slow down San Jose. So it turned into a wildly entertaining last 15 minutes of the first half. But in the end, you just had to be glad that Sporting went to the locker room just down 1-0. There are several records set in this particular game. There was a record for shots plus penalties, given the real contested nature of this game. A lot of short fuses out there on the hot night. But there were 44 shots in the end and 39 fouls. And evidence of that was Roger Espinoza. He committed 5 fouls, but he was fouled 6 times, and that was a Sporting Kansas City record as well. 11 combined fouls in the game for Roger Espinoza, who really all game long, but particularly in the second half, was his usual barrel of energy, providing a real spark for Sporting Kansas City. And he's the kind of player you just sort of don't notice how impactful he is until he's out with injury. And then he comes back and you're like, oh, that's why they're better when he's in there. But in the second half, the same players came out, and I imagine there was some paint peeling on the walls of the Sporting Kansas City locker room. I can't imagine that Peter Vermees was happy in any way, shape, or form with what went on in the first half, because a lot of it seemed to be effort and attention to detail. Well, the same players came out, but it was a totally different team, and Sporting Kansas City was completely on the front foot in that particular half and would end up getting a couple of goals. Firsts in each case. Benny Feilhaber with a great strike from about 20 yards out for his first goal since returning to the team. And defender Graham Smith with a simple tap-in, his first ever goal for Sporting Kansas City just after the 70th minute, and that would create the 2-1 victory for Sporting. I mentioned that I watched the first half up high and got a tactical look, and then I watched from about 20 rows up in the second half, and it's almost like watching a completely different sport, to be honest. You see more of the intensity. It's harder to see the tactical aspect and the spacing because you're not up as high, but you see much more of the intensity and the speed and the skill down low when you're watching a game, and that was all in evidence for Sporting Kansas City, which was marauding up the field time after time after time and had almost complete control of the game, but there was enough danger from San Jose on counters when the game was tied 1 apiece for quite a while, and then in the end as well, as they were trying to hold on to the lead to create a very exciting evening at Sporting Kansas City and Children's Mercy Park, and a vital game. This looked like it was going to be a loss for about a half an hour, and if it was a loss, the season probably would just about be lost. It's still an uphill battle for Sporting Kansas City. Good schedules for some of the teams that they are trying to chase down. Only 9 games remaining, 6 points still out of a playoff spot, but they have a couple more home games consecutively. First up on Thursday against Minnesota United, another of the teams that they are trying to flag down. But an exciting, fun, interesting, and vital night for Sporting Kansas City as they played on Saturday night. Mentioned the Royals and the fact that they are playing out the string. Well, this weekend was a little bit different. The Mets did come to town right after the championship was won against the Mets in 2015 and 2016, but hadn't played the Royals since. And it always is going to bring up memories, particularly when Noah Syndergaard pitches on Friday night and Jacob deGrom pitches on Saturday night. And that's kind of a good feeling. And the atmosphere at the ballpark was interesting because there were quite a few Mets fans there for all 3 games. And just a little bit more flavor and spice for a weekend where the only thing that mattered was the game to the opponent. I'll check out the Royals for a bit coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Get a refreshing change of your expectations of a sports bar and restaurant at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. Matt Llewellyn's welcoming spot at Clinton Parkway in Cassold covers all the bases, like their own handcrafted beers and all the televisions you need for great sports viewing, but it's the large, varied, and delicious menu that stands apart. From a favorite of mine like the awesome ahi tuna appetizer to great sandwiches, outstanding pizza, and truly fantastic entrees, the 23rd Street Brewery has it all. Matt and his friendly staff make it that much more enjoyable. Food until 10, fun until late. The 23rd Street Brewery is a can't-miss stop when you are in Lawrence. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Welcome back, and yes, indeed, we do have to talk Major League Baseball. There is Major League Baseball being played in your town, and so it is a story, however painful a story at times, however grinding a story it's actually become right now for the Kansas City Royals. You look for the bright spots, they're basically the same ones that we've had all along, but there are another couple or two have popped up. But with the Mets in for the weekend, as I mentioned, it did raise up some memories. It's less than 4 years ago that the Royals won the World Series in New York City, and certainly that is a great memory. It probably seems longer ago than the less than 4 years than it actually is, but I certainly won't forget my visit to New York City and my luggage being lost and my tooth being broken and my Korean thrift shop where I replaced all the clothes that were lost in the lost luggage incident, Eric Hosmer's mad dash home, waiting in the tunnel for the clubhouse to open after all that time in the last inning when Wade Davis couldn't quite get out of it after the Royals had the game won with all the runs that they had scored, and eventually seeing this champagne celebration. It does indeed seem maybe more than the less than 4 years ago that it is, but here were the Mets in town with Noah Syndergaard and with Jacob deGrom, but all it did was, I guess, remind us of the bad things now after we had a little chance to be wistful in a good way over the times that were so great not so long ago. Royals are back in the doldrums. They've lost 16 of their last 21 now. They only won one game on the homestand. On Sunday, it was a bullpen disaster that doomed them, a paper cuts type of rally for the New York Mets, kind of reminiscent of what the Royals used to do to people. The rotation has been pretty good for the Kansas City Royals of late, and Glenn Sparkman, despite a bad first inning, was pretty good yesterday. Brad Keller was quite good in his most recent start, taking a no-hitter through 6 innings. Jacob Junis was pretty good in his game as well, but only the one win on the homestand. No Jorge Soler home runs on the homestand. A coincidence that those two things went together? Probably not. Soler still at 35 home runs. Probably the biggest recent bright spot that you can point to is Mike Montgomery. And Mike Montgomery has been really excellent in his last 2 starts. And Montgomery is the really only return that the Royals got for the veterans that they signed in the offseason. You didn't sign Billy Hamilton and Chris Owings and Lucas Duda and Martin Maldonado necessarily to win 85 games. You hope that maybe Hamilton would find a little something with the bat. The versatility of Chris Owings was touted. Lucas Duda, what he was here for, I have really no explanation, but maybe to hit some home runs and draw something in return. But for Martin Maldonado, they did get Mike Montgomery. He's 30 now, so whether he's going to be around when the Royals' good future, if it is to come, does come. But they had to DFA Hamilton, DFA Owings, DFA Lucas Duda, and for those designated for assignments, that means they got no return, and that is really why you sign those guys, to try and get some kind of return. It is surprising in some regards that Billy Hamilton played so badly that even his speed was not seen as a potential weapon for a team in contention to even give you a marginal prospect for it. And maybe one of the bigger disappointments of the offseason was the judgment that you make, and you have to be blamed for it. If you decide to pick these veterans, you want performance out of them. So if they don't help the team on the ball field to win more games, that at least you get some return out of it, and the Royals pretty much struck out in that. But for Martin Maldonado, who didn't really hit particularly well for the Royals, to get even Mike Montgomery and have him have a couple of good starts of late, that certainly is the upside of that particular thing. Another downside for the Royals is the two youngsters that they're hoping will maybe provide some core for the future just aren't performing at all. Bubba Starling is now 7 for his last 55. They started him to set him down a little bit against some tough right-handed pitching. And Nicky Lopez has started to make better contact, the thing that he was most hailed for. He's only struck out 2 times in his last 45 at-bats, but it has not translated to any kind of performance whatsoever. He seems to have found his level at about 222 or 223. However, as they hit the road after the homestand, Nicky Lopez does have a 3-game hitting streak. It's just 3 for 11, I believe, is the performance, but still a 3-game hitting streak. Maybe that's the start of a little bit of something, as they do hit the road for a road trip that probably has many people with the Royals completely out of sight and out of mind, with the Chiefs now bearing down just a couple of weeks away from the regular season. So tonight, Monday night, it will be the battle at the bottom, as the Baltimore Orioles and the Royals, who are the 3 teams, along with the Detroit Tigers, who are far and away the worst teams in the American League and far and away the worst teams in baseball, all 3 pacing for at least 105 losses, and remarkably, that's the Royals heading for 105 losses at the pace they're playing at now of .350 ball. And that doesn't even net them the top draft choice. In fact, they would pick 3rd if it was done now, and it seems likely that probably will be the case. The Royals' run differential is better than those other teams. They just lose and lose and lose. The Orioles have lost 9 out of 10. They can't hit the ball out of the ballpark, so we'll see what happens in the 3-game series there. Then it's a single makeup game at Fenway Park. Actually, it's just the resumption of a suspended game. It literally could last 1 inning, and then to Cleveland to probably be the Washington Generals for the hot Cleveland Indians as they try to flag down the Minnesota Twins, who are just such a great story, sweeping the Texas Rangers over the weekend and continuing to hold off the Indians, despite the Indians playing continued really, really good baseball. And the have and have-nots nature of the American League certainly is not good for baseball. And the Royals back in the tank with 16 losses in their last 21 games, and now just looking for little shreds as we will be basically almost to September when this road trip is over, and then 1 month left in another painful baseball season for the Kansas City Royals. But just the appearance of the Mets in those uniforms brings back some good memories from not so long ago, although it seems long, long ago. That's the Weekend Sports Wrap for this week. Join me each and every day at DannyKlingscale.com. We always have new things coming up, be it sports or film or music. Football is about to really kick in, and that will be exciting as well. And we'll have a lot of exciting new things coming up on the website over the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you again soon.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.